Welcome to today's developer class. Today we're going to be talking about the introduction to Google Cloud and using containers with the Google Cloud. So this is just another lesson in our continuous discussion on containers. We will cover what is Google Cloud. We're going to go over some of these services, the types of securities that you can support, like PCI compliance, HIPAA compliance, things of that nature. We're going to look at what type of programming languages are supported with Google Cloud. We're also going to look at the Cloud Launcher. And the primary focus of today's lesson is going to be understanding and using the cloud platform and using the free tier, building our Kubernetes cluster, deploying our Docker containers, and kind of walk through the web interface as well as using the command line interface and a combination of the two to deploy a Docker container. If you don't know what I'm talking about as far as Docker containers, Kubernetes, containers, go back and look at some of our previous discussions on Docker, containers, Kubernetes to kind of go through some of the sample examples that we used previously, because we're going to use the same containers today. So that is pretty much it for the slides. It's going to be primarily a hands-on presentation today. So the first thing you want to do is, if you have a Gmail account, you can easily attach your Google Cloud account to your Gmail account. If you don't want to, you can always just sign in, create a new account. No big deal. So before I begin, what is Google Cloud? So Google Cloud is a suite of public cloud computing services offered by Google. These are similar to like the Amazon AWS services, but they're very cloud-centric and very developer-centric and containerized. The platform includes a range of hosted services for computing, storage, application developments that run on Google hardware. Google Cloud Platform services can be accessed by software developers, cloud administrators, and other enterprise IT professionals over the public internet or through a dedicated network connection. So with that, it's like, why Google? Well, you can go through all their kind of marketing here. You get different things you can do. You can compute, store data, network services, big data. But actually, let's look at what they offer as far as products go. So with products, they've got a large array of products. So you have cloud computing, so all the things you can do in the cloud, similar to AWS. You can create computing engines. You can create VMs. You can set up app engines where you can actually develop web applications or deploy web applications. You can set up Kubernetes engines, which is what we're going to do today. There's a new cloud functions that's in beta. I tried to mess around with that a little bit to see if I could squeeze that into today's demo. And it's beta enough that I'll postpone that till they actually go live, and we'll do a separate little presentation on that. You can do cloud storages similar to like the S3 and some of the AWS packages there. Persistent disks, you can create block VMs like what we talked about with the Kubernetes, where you can kind of create a shared VM instance or with volumes and then pass out volumes across multiple containers. And some other beta features like NoSQL, Cloud Firestore, Cloud File Store, and Cloud Memory Store, other things that are still in beta, but kind of like they say for memory, where you can share memory across different data stores. Filebase migrations, handles data transfers applications is coming. BigQuery data transfer services, that's actually pretty cool. Outside the scope of today's lesson, but I think I'm going to come back around and cover that one again in a future lesson. Cloud SQL, you want to create a database in the cloud, spin one up here. Networking, you create your own virtual private cloud. You can set up a load balancing. You'll actually see that here with the Kubernetes example we're doing today. It's very easy to create a load balancer and scale up and scale down your services. Management tools, you got Stackdriver, monitoring, logging. We'll look at a few of these, but we won't get into too much detail on them today. Developer tools, Cloud SDK. I believe that's one we're downloading today for our command line so that we can interact with our interface. And I'm looking at, I believe that is correct. Yep, Cloud SDK. We're also going to be looking at container registries. We'll do a little bit of that from the command line as well as from the GUI and the GUI command line. One of the coolest features that I like about the Google Cloud that I haven't seen with AWS yet is the fact that it actually gives you a console within your web browser. So you can actually use a Linux container to interact with your cloud interface. So you don't have to actually download the Google SDK or the Cloud SDK to interact with your Google Cloud. You can do it all from a website. So you can go to basically treat any computer as a thin client and you have access to your cloud. API management, what's cool here is you pretty much have access to almost the entire slew of Google APIs, Google Maps, Mail, some of the other features in there mentioned here. So you got maps, routes, places. There's a couple others in there. Identity and security. We could set up our own Cloud IAM interface, which we'll set up a little bit of that. I'll go through that in a few minutes. You can do data loss prevention, security key formats, like we've done with the AWS. We're going to create our own private keys. You can also tie into G Suite, so all your teams can interact with each other. So like you can go to Chrome Enterprise, connect your workforce. All right, so let's go look at security. So within the security, you got different infrastructures. The main compliances that a lot of people care about right now is all the ISOs and your Sarbanes-Oxley SOX compliance, but that's not it. They have a ton of compliances, and not just U.S. compliances, but essentially worldwide compliances. So U.S., Latin America, Europe, Canada, Asia, Africa. And you can also go by specific industry. So if you're doing a government, hey, here's all the government securities you need. Or you want to do healthcare. Healthcare has a different one, but you still have HIPAA, SOC. Let's see, let's go to retail, which I believe puts in PCI. Yep, PCI compliance right there. And gaming. Gaming has pretty much all of these and more. Child's online privacy. I believe that's it's US, but this I think was basically driven from the EU's, some of the EU privacies that were instated. Privacy shields, and then South African. So you got some other ones here. If you want to actually start coding on your instances, some of the languages that are supported or currently supported for developing in the cloud are Go, Java, .NET, Node.js, PHP, Python, Ruby. And the interfaces, once you start coding, you're going to kind of have the same feel as like JFiddler. You start writing code online and boom, it's readily available. Similar to how Red Hat has one that they've got out where you can do the OpenShift, where you can actually create your projects in the cloud, tie them to a Git repository. And it's basically all running in container. So once you get your environment where you want it, package it up as a container, and then you can deploy it to one of your Kubernetes or anywhere else on the cloud. One of the other features I want to point out is the Google Launcher. So Amazon has something similar to this. It's where you can actually have a single-click solution to quickly spin up a popular component or a popular solution. So like if you need a WordPress site, click here and sign in, and you can now set up a WordPress site. The only thing I don't like about these is the cost. So right here, estimated cost is about $49.35 for their WordPress. Whereas if you go set up a WordPress site through AWS, I think it's only $20. So you got to kind of compare the different services that each of these providers offer. Some may be cheaper, some may be more expensive, but then you also then have to go down and look at what you actually get. So what you kind of get with this, which is why it's a little more expensive, is you actually get 2 VMs for load balancing, for recovery. Then you also get 3.7 gigs of memory, which I think with the Amazon AWS free tier, I think it's 1. But with that one, you get up to 30 gigs of hard drive space. Whereas with this one, you only get 10 gig. So there's some differences between the two. Some of the other little services you can do, you can throw up a lamp stack. This is a lot cheaper. So, hey, you can throw that for about $24 and then set up your own WordPress site on that. But there again, here's the difference. You get 1 CPU, still more memory, and you get 10 gig hard drive. MongoDB, 347. So as you can see, certain packages start really getting expensive, but you get 2 times the standard persistence, terabyte, 1,000 gigabytes of storage. and single click deploy. So you don't have to do the install. It will be installed, then you just have to configure it for your needs. Next, let's go look at pricing. So, like AWS, the cool part about Google Cloud is your first year is free. You can get in there, you can play with it. But one of the nice things about it, or one of the differences between Google and AWS, is they give you a $300 credit. So not only do they give you 1 year free of Google Cloud, they also give you $300 to play around with some of the services that don't have any free tiers or any free options. So you can actually go in and actually use it, develop things, play with it, set up a test interface, make sure it works. Burn through that $300 credit, sure, throw it away. Create a brand new account, use a different email account or Google account, and use the same credit card. Boom, you got another 300 free tier. Same idea with AWS. AWS has actually started giving out vouchers at some of the AWS shows where you can actually start using some of their paid features that they don't have any free tiers for. Same kind of idea. The difference here, though, is Google gives it to you right out of the gate. So if you actually sign in or create an account, which is what I started here, all I've done here is I've gone in and I've set up the account or signed in with a new account. So now I have to actually set it up. So this is all you have to do. So you basically say, do you want updates? Yes or no? We'll say no. Yes, I've read the agreement. Agree and continue. It's going to want your information. All right, so you can fill out this information. I'll be right back with that. I'm going to slide it over here and fill it out. And then once you do that, it says creating project. This may take a few moments. Meanwhile, I'm going to log out of that one because I've already set one up. I just kind of wanted to go through the process. Now, it's similar to AWS. As you're going through and you're setting up the account, it will call you or prompt you to be texted to verify that you're a real person. It did that on one of my accounts and it did not on another. So I guess it just depends on your network activity. So now that I've set up, hey, I now have a $300 credit and I have 364 days remaining on my account. Now I also have an account here, my first project. So you actually have to have a project to tie to your billing account. So it creates you one by default, my first project. So we'll just actually go to the overall dashboard, which is here. So since we have a project, it pulls up all your project information. But right now we have no resources, no tracing, basically my first project. Here's your project ID. You need that for just about everything you do. Google platform statuses, nothing's really turned on, no big deal. So the first thing I want to do is I'm actually going to go create a new project. And we're just going to call this one Hello World. And create. I hit cancel again. Bear with me. Hello World. Create. All right. Oh, I'm getting impatient. So over here, it takes a little getting used to. So your notifications is this little bell in the upper right-hand corner. So when you create something, if you don't see it right away, you have to go monitor this little question mark, and then it'll show up. So now I've created multiple Hello Worlds. But here's the thing. You can create as many projects with the same name as you want. It's going to give them unique IDs. And these IDs are going to be what you use to communicate with those individual projects. So since I created a duplicate one, we'll just go here, project settings, and we're going to shut down the one I duplicated. Again, it wants you to enter in your project ID. Shut it down. Okay. Well, that guy's going away. Let's go look at the overall platform here. All right, so you got a little menu bar, navigation menu, upper left-hand corner. You can pin things that you constantly use up here. So you can drag the API up here, drop it in, pin it. So you can start with Marketplace. Well, Marketplace, this is that launcher. So this is the one-click solution to basically get something up and running immediately. So like PHP, the WordPress I showed you earlier, you can do a Joomla certified. You could do, where's the other one? There's LAMP. Then you could also do the compute engine. You basically, one click, you could have them do it for you. We're going to walk through essentially setting up a compute engine and the Kubernetes engine today. Billing, you have to actually connect your projects to a billing account. So if I go back over here and I select my project, we'll do Hello World. Go down to billing. He's now attached. We're all good. You can then check your budgets and alerts. You can create a budget. You can see your transactions. Nothing yet. Just started. API and services. So really, to get the full benefit of the Google Cloud, you're going to want to come down to the API and services and enable it. It's disabled by default, just so you can don't really start getting billed by anything right off the bat. But go ahead and just click it and then get started with it. It just enables it. So now you have the access, the ability to access any of these API libraries, like the Gmail API, the Google Drive API, YouTube, some of the advertisements, so AdSense. Now you can also now interact with the Google Cloud Storage, Google Engine API. So this is how we're going to actually interact with it with the command line. So that guy's now been enabled. So that's all you had to do is just click it. Takes you here. Oop, didn't enable it. Enable. Oh, there it is. Google Cloud Storage. Finish that. Credentials to get started. Create. It's not the So this is where you come in, though, and you can pick the APIs that you want. So computer engine. There we go. That's what I want. So compute engine API. Enable this guy. Now allows us to interact with the Kubernetes and that from the command line. So it takes a minute to enable it. A lot of the services, when you interact with them and enable them, can take anywhere between 30 seconds to a minute. You have to bear in mind that behind the scenes, it's probably spinning up a Docker image, running it, doing the install, then tearing it down and throwing it away once the install is complete. Back to that. Support. If you have any questions or problems, this is where you go. So you have the Google Cloud Platform status. You can all service normal. If you have any problems here, this will go to yellow for warnings, red for problems. Then you can contact by phone, change your support, or change your billing information, or report issues. You also get free billing support and access to a broad community. So unlike a lot of free tiers, you actually get support, but you get limited support. So you can upgrade your support to different levels if you want. So basically you get billing support, community forums, documents, but if you need architectural support, you can pay for the higher tiers. Silver is $150 a month, $450 a month for gold, platinum. I think it's basically by vendor. Okay. I am admin. This is where you essentially set up your roles for your account. So we have our computer engine default account, which I just enabled. So that was our little service, which also gave us the Google API service account. That guy's now been enabled. Our demo, this is our guy. We're the owner. If you actually go look, you can see the different levels. So he is an editor. And then if you want, you can look at the roles. So editors, these guys. Identities, You can add different identities. You can look at your quotas, your service accounts. You can set up labels. If you're doing any cloud computing in the EU, you need to make sure you come in here and review and agree to each of these contracts out of the gate, just for the presentations and just to play around. You don't necessarily need to review any of these or accept any of these. Only if you're going to start publishing to the cloud do you want to actually come in and agree to those. All right, so here's your settings, which is fun because you can also go up here, click this. There's your settings right here as well. You can move, shut down, or migrate your project. So if you need to move from one platform to another, you can migrate it. Crypto keys, we can create keys, identity and aware, roles. So all these guys are enabled. And if we implement this guy, permissions. So if I'm an admin, I have access to Cloud Object Discovery. I am services, resource management. So the ones we saw were editor, job editor. So they have access to a variety of roles. Now, being owner, you actually have access to everything. So there's nothing restricted to you as the owner. But you don't necessarily want to give owner to someone who's just going to be coming in and maintaining your site. So you may want to give them admin or some lower levels admin rights. Your audit logs, you can look at your different logs. Right now, I don't have any because we just started. Getting started. If you want to go read some tutorials, look at APIs, this is a great place to start. You can also go through their little console tour, which we're actually going to do a similar training of that here in a minute. And at the top, it's constantly telling you, hey, you have $300 left. Do you want to upgrade or dismiss? Really, you don't care about that unless you actually run out of money. Security, you can set up crypto keys. We'll be looking at the Kubernetes engine here, compute engine, app engine. We can create storage, so we can actually upload things to the web or create essentially Samba links to drives so we can actually save files, download things, and then deploy them to our images. We create a file store. You can do a virtual private cloud network. We're actually going to not be discussing any of these today. We're mainly going to focus on storage and the compute. Stackdriver, you have to essentially sign into Stackdriver, but you can then set up monitoring, debugging, tracing, and additional logging. Container registry, this is where we're going to upload our Docker containers. You do need to enable this. So a lot of things are disabled by default, but as you start getting in and start playing with things, it'll tell you, hey, you can't do this yet, you need to enable it. So we're enabling that guy. Source repository, if you want to create like a GitHub, you can do that here. So you can create a private Git storage for yourself within your Google Cloud. If you're familiar with Bitbucket, same idea. You can create your own private Git within your Google Cloud, or go use your Bitbucket account. Deploy Manager, so continuous integration. You can enable this. Google Cloud Deployment Manager provides deploying view Google Cloud services, etc. We'll just go ahead and enable him too. Doesn't hurt to have some of these features enabled. You can set up different endpoints, BigQuery. We're not going to get into any of the big data stuff this time. Let us stop here for now. Due to the length of the initial presentation, we have broken this video up into 3 parts to make the downloading and viewing of this topic easier. In the first part of this presentation, we focus on understanding and using the Google Cloud Platform. In the second part of this video, we continue our journey into Google Cloud and walk through how to use the platform to deploy containers using the Kubernetes engine and the online console. In the third and final part, we discuss how to use Google CLI or Command Line Interface SDK tools to deploy your containers from a desktop to a cloud Kubernetes engine. When you are ready to watch the next parts, please click the links in the show notes or look in the video directory where you found this video. Thank you for your time and have a great day.